I'm Will, that is the Polestar 2, not a Chinese EV per se, and this is China driven. This is, of course, the Polestar 2, the second model from Polestar, with the Polestar 1 being the first model. Now, Polestar used to be the performance arm of Volvo until Geely, who owns Volvo, spun it off into its own EV brand. Now, the Polestar 1 was a hybrid, whereas the Polestar 2 is fully electric. But you already knew that because this is sold in most major markets around the world. This video, I'm going to take you around and give you a quick look about all the things inside and outside of the car. Our next video will be a test drive of this car. And let me tell you, driving it is probably the biggest reason to buy it. Style-wise, I think this will be a little bit controversial. You'll either love the angular stealth battleship design, or it will be completely off-putting. I would say that this car is definitely more handsome than it is beautiful. But then again, so am I, so it's no bad thing. One thing this car is not is another rounded soap bar obsessed with slipping through the air to eke out an extra mile or two. It feels less obsessive and geeky compared to some of the other EVs I've come across. And I like that. You've got to remember that this is basically a rolling concept car. You see, the Volvo Concept 40.2 was unveiled in 2016 alongside the Volvo Concept 40.1. Volvo wanted to follow the trend of trendy crossovers, snapped up the 40.1 concept and made it into the Volvo XC40 Recharged, while Polestar, being recently spun off into a new energy brand, produced the Polestar 1 a year later and were given the Volvo Concept 40.2 as their second model, and what a model it was to have. The Polestar 1 was a handsome thing, a kind of Brad Pitt of cars, if you like, Fight Club, not Moneyball. And this Polestar 2 just looks and feels like its little brother snapping at its heels. Now, the Polestar 2 is available in many markets throughout the world, but let's go over the price here in China. The single motor bottom end model of the Polestar 2 comes in at just under £30,000 or just over $40,000. But this, the dual motor version, starts at just under £40,000 or just over $53,000. Now, that's not cheap by any means, but there's nothing about this car that feels cheap. This is definitely a premium product. Now, the Polestar 2 has three variants. It has a single motor, a single motor long range, and this, the dual motor. Now, the single motor comes with 224 horsepower and 330 newton meters of torque, and the single motor long range, because that longer battery is a little bit more horsepower, 231 horsepower, but the same 330 newton meters of torque. They can both go from 0 to 100 in 7.4 seconds and onto a top speed of 100 miles an hour. Now, this, the dual motor, the one that we care about, is a little bit more powerful. It's got 407 horsepower and 660 newton meters of torque. And supposedly on paper, that will rocket this from 0 to 100 in 4.7 seconds and onto a top speed of 127 miles an hour. But I don't think that 4.7 seconds is real. I think that this is quicker than it says it is on paper. There's two battery sizes for the Polestar 2, a smaller 64 kilowatt hour and a larger 78 kilowatt hour. Now, the 64 kilowatt hour only goes in the single motor bottom variant, and that has a claimed range of 486 kilometers. Now, the larger 78 kilowatt pack can be found in the single motor long range variant and this, the dual motor variant. And the ranges are different. For the long range, it is 565 kilometers, whereas for this dual motor, it's a little bit lower at 512 kilometers. Charging from 20 to 80% with a 50 kilowatt charger will take just under about an hour. And with a 150 kilowatt charger, you're looking at around 20-25 minutes. Now, obviously with the smaller 64 kilowatt hour pack, those times will be a little bit shorter. The number that Polestar claims is about 100 kilometers every 10 minutes of fast charge. Now, I already teased you a bit and I said that I think this car is a great drive, so do be sure that after this video, you go and check out our test drive of this Polestar 2. Suspension wise, we're talking about McPherson struts in the front and a multi-link independent setup in the rear. Now, if you get the sports package, which unfortunately we don't have, one of the things it adds is Öhlins adjustable dampeners up front with 22 settings. So if you like to get out your tools and slowly adjust your own car, then this is the car for you. So let's talk wheels and brakes. Now, depending on what model you get will depend on your rim size. For the lower models, you'll have a 19-inch rim with a 245/45 tire all the way around. Whereas on this dual motor, you get a 20-inch rim with a 245/40 tire all the way around. Here, they're shod in Continental Premium Contact 6 tires. Now, if you upgrade to the sports package, then you'll get a different 20-inch rim, a Y-spoke design. Now, as standard, they come with a 2-piston caliper, but if you do get that sports package, then you'll get a 4-piston Brembo up front instead. Oh, there's single piston in the rear, I think. I'll mention this quickly because I'll talk more about it on the test drive, but this does come with an ADAS Level 2 system, becoming quite common on mid to higher end EVs. Now, the Polestar 2 comes with automatic LED headlights and daylight running lights. Of course it does a car of this price point, but if you want to up your light game, then you'll have to go with the Pilot package. That's the package that will give you the level 2 ADAS, but what it will also do is take your light game to the next level. What you'll be getting is automatic high-low beam, you'll be getting LED fog lights, you'll be getting turn assist lights as well. So as you turn the steering wheel, it will throw light down a darkened road. And you'll also be getting Polestar's matrix lights or its pixel light technology. Fancy. And it doesn't stop there. You'll also get all those fancy unlocking and locking animations, which are always fun. Now at the back, these are all LED as well. This kind of wraparound red bar you can see here acts as the brake light. And if you get that Pilot pack, then you can get kind of the opening animation as well as the locking animation, and they look quite slick. But if you want those, you've got to be getting the Pilot pack. All right, let's have a look at the front end of the Polestar 2. Now, first things first, it's got these kind of like horizontal Y daylight running lights in the headlight cluster and this kind of familiar black trapezoid grille surrounded in this kind of chrome trim. Now, this kind of harks back to its Volvo origins. Here, it's a bit sleeker and more styled. Down the bottom, you've got this kind of black piece of fascia that goes all the way across the bottom, ending in this kind of angular surrounds that encompass the headlights. It's a very clean front end. One thing though that does confuse me, the badge on the bonnet's made out of plastic. Weird. I absolutely love this roofline. It's flat, like someone who's chopped a rat rod or something like that. And with this darkened A-pillar, it kind of wraps around the windows, making them look kind of slimmer and sleeker. And just from the roofline to the belt line, it makes the whole car look so low, but from the belt line to the bottom, it kind of looks like a jacked up sedan, like an Audi Allroad or something like that, complete with lower plastic trim that you wouldn't cry so much about if you were to hit it. And you cannot not talk about that fast back that goes into the trunk there, giving this whole side a kind of sporty feeling with this pinched in lower part here in the middle. There's also a little bit of design over the wheel arches, but this whole side profile is a kind of mix, really. On the one hand, it looks low and kind of sporty. And on the other hand, it looks chunky and sturdy. It definitely gives you the feeling that if, heaven forbid, you were to get into an accident, that you would be cocooned safely inside. So this back end, what can we say about it? Well, it's got this kind of sloping of this fastback of the rear windscreen. It goes smoothly into the boot lid, and just at the end of the boot lid, there is a very subtle uplift, like not quite a spoiler, but the suggestion of sportiness is there. But the whole rear end is dominated by this light bar that stretches across the whole back, and it nearly completes itself, leaving a little bit of a gap at the top. But from behind, it draws your eye. And if you squint hard enough, you might just be able to make out the words Volvo. The Polestar 2, of course, it's got an electronic boot lid or trunk. I've been using the key up until now because I couldn't find the button, but I just found it. It's underneath here and up it goes. Now, with the seats up, it will hold 405 litres, and if you put those seats down, it will swallow 1,095 litres. And I can hear you. I know what you're asking me. I know. Will, I know you're in sunny Sanya, but can I put my skis in it? And the answer is yes, there is a pass-through for skis, probably because Volvo and Polestar have Nordic origins, and taking skis is probably something that a lot of people actually need. For maybe people like me, that usability is lost unless there's some random long things I need to take. But it's there. So if you are a skier, this could be the EV for you. Also automatic closing. If you don't use the one-touch up and down window function, then the windows have 2 speeds and a 3rd speed for the one-touch up and down. Watch this. Goes slow, then it speeds up, one touch down fast. I don't know why it does it, but it does. Also, you have these frameless wing mirrors up here. They're not the largest, but they give you a decent view of what's down your side. Stylish, I guess. Welcome to the interior of the Polestar 2. Now, this is classic Scandinavian design in here. It's kind of minimalistic, but it's got both form and function. Now, this is the vegan interior, so there isn't any leather, but the material qualities are still really good and quite interesting. So up here on the dash, you've kind of got a fabric here, instead of maybe fake carbon fiber or aluminium or aluminum for our American friends. Is very interesting. You've also got this kind of open porous wood, which you'll also find on the inside of the center console. Now, on the outside of the center console, and also up here and wrapping all the way around the dash, is this kind of rubberized material. Now, I know from experience from my wife's old Range Rover, she used to have a center console that was wrapped in aluminium, and that just used to get battered and dented by anything dropping on it, and it looked atrocious after years. Whereas this rubberized center console is probably going to look good for years to come. Now, this fabric you have up on the dashboard, you'll also find it on the door cards, as well as this kind of black fabric as well, which is kind of soft for you to lay your arm on. One weird thing over here, where you pull the door closed, there is this weird kind of metal button, nipple, that it's kind of weird. I don't know why it's there, but it is. The door pulls, they're like these solid metal, one-piece metal things, feel really good. The wheel, although it is not leather, feels like a very decent synthetic leather. Now, we'll come back to the seats later as well. They're not leather either. But overall, the material qualities in this are really good. Now, there are a few places where they're not so good, but there are some places where you'd be surprised. So for instance, the glove box is rubberized. It's not just some horrible plastic, but for example, on the inside of the door pull, that is kind of hard plastic. Now, you can't really feel it that much, so I guess you can get away with it. Also, around this metal door handle, this is hard plastic, but again, you probably wouldn't be touching here that often. And obviously lower down, there's some hard, scratchy plastics. But generally, all the places that you touch, the material quality is pretty high. Now let's talk, so we've got this multi-function steering wheel. As I said, although it is synthetic leather, it still feels quite nice. It's got some metal chrome design around it, and it's fairly easy to use. You basically control your ADAS and your cruise control on the left-hand side, and then you control your media and some menus on the right-hand side. Now, this car has the upgraded light package, so you can turn on the automatic headlight beam, full beam. But one thing that was kind of surprising,
and this is the part where I go on about the fact there aren't any automatic window wipers, because like the idiot I am, I couldn't find them. There are definitely automatic window wipers. Look at me. I think I'm so smart. Fool.
Now, this is a first for me. Behind the steering wheel is where you have this digital instrument panel, and it's 12.3 inches. In fact, this is larger or longer than the central touchscreen, which is 11.15 inches. The digital instrument panel, I mean, it can show you your maps. Apart from that, it will show you anything, if there's anything wrong with the car, like tire pressures, anything like that. It will show you your range and your battery level left. Now, the center touchscreen is really simple. There are 4 buttons across the top, one to access the 360-degree camera, one to access the car kind of settings, one for the apps, and one for you to log in to your Polestar app, which can save all of your preferences, such as interior lights, your memory seat functions, your steering feel, and maybe if you like to put on one pedal driving but your partner doesn't, etc, etc. But there's not much to do on this touchpad. It does everything you need and not much more. You can control the kind of lights, interior lights, and the way certain things work. There is an app store to download things, but there isn't really that much you can change about this car. It doesn't have any kind of modes. There's no sport mode or eco mode or anything like that. You just basically balance how much power you use by the accelerator. And I think that's kind of refreshing. Now, above this central touchscreen, which is kind of floating, you have the central air vents, which are kind of in a weird place up here. You can't really make it directly point at you, the driver. You have to use the one over here on the left by the steering wheel. But yeah, it's a really strange kind of place to have them, but they're there. Behind that is, you'll see in this model, we have the upgraded pack. So we get the 13 speaker surround sound system by Harman Kardon, rather than the standard 8 speaker surround sound system that you get if you don't option that premium pack or luxury pack. Other than that, in the interior up here, I mean, you've got vanity mirrors, as you would do, a couple of reading lights, a button to turn on all the lights, and that's about it. In this car, there is a panoramic roof. It's an option with that luxury pack, and I think it's really, really useful. Because of that low roof and the kind of small windows, if you have the standard model without the panoramic roof, you might feel that it's a little bit dark and cramped in here. But with that panoramic roof, it really does feel open. And also, it projects a logo, the Polestar logo, up onto the roof. You can see it when the lights are on. So that's a kind of cool little touch. Okay, coming down from this central touchscreen, which is kind of floating, there is a kind of cavern underneath here, which has your induction phone charger and 2 USB-C sockets to connect things by a cable. Behind that, you now come to the 4 buttons. There is the hazard lights, the front window demister and the rear window demister, and a play kind of pause button, which also acts as your volume control as well. Behind that, you have this really lovely gear selector with the Polestar logo, and it's kind of hollow in the middle. It's really nice. It feels really nice. It looks really nice. It's a nice little centerpiece, especially with the Polestar logo lit up like that. Sorry, there is a 5th button. There is a button here for park. Behind that, you get your first cup holder, and then if you open up this, there's a second cup holder inside here as well. This, again, because there's no leather in here, it's just a kind of soft material. It feels fine. I really like this interior. It's really kind of simplistic in here. There's not too much going on, but at the same time, it feels kind of premium, which is what you kind of want if you're spending this kind of money on a vehicle. Yeah, Polestar logo inside on the steering wheel is metal. On the bonnet, it's plastic. Figure that. All right, let's talk about these seats. Now, obviously, there's no leather in here, so these seats are a fabric. They are Polestar's Wave Tech fabric. And they feel really good to sit in. They're really comfortable. They've got really good side bolstering and thigh bolstering as well. And both the driver's seat and the passenger seat are 8-way electronically adjustable with 4-way lumbar support as well. The driver's seat also has memory function, and the passenger and driver's seat both have heated seat function. They also both have manual thigh support as well, something you don't see on a lot of cars. But overall, I think these seats look really good with this kind of dark and light black. I think they look really sporty. They're really comfortable. Yeah, been driving around a lot in them and I haven't found them lacking. I can get into a really comfortable position. They hold me really well in, let's say, spirited driving. So they do their job. There's nothing more I could want from them. No, there is. I do really wish that they had seat ventilation, because this is in Sanya, it's quite warm here, and these fabric seats do make your behind a bit toasty. But you know, being a Nordic car, they're probably not that worried about 30-odd degree weather. Welcome to the back of the Polestar 2. Now, let's talk about what it's like in here. Now, it might look like I've got adequate room, but remember, I'm only 5'7". And I'm sat behind myself. So if you put someone in here who's like 6 foot, even I might find that my knee room might quickly get cramped. And that might be a bit of a problem in China, you see, because Chinese people really like lots of rear legroom. That's why we have long wheelbase versions of loads of cars. Even, you know, Audi Q2L, like everything comes in a long wheelbase. Now, apart from that, the level of materials in the back here are quite good. You've got the same material, these seats, as the front, this kind of Wave Tech fabric. There's also seat heating back here as well, and next to those buttons there are two USB-Cs and 2 air outlets. Other manufacturers, take note, this is nice and equal. Everyone's got some air, everyone's got some power. Now, on the door card, you have the same kind of fabric and soft fabric for the door armrest. There's also another metal nipple here, but this one's smooth rather than the textured one in the front. One-piece metal door handles. Now, the windows back here are not the largest, so with this optional panoramic roof, it does help to make it not feel so cramped back here. I would worry that if you didn't have the panoramic roof, it might feel a little bit dark and cramped back here, because also the rear windscreen is not that large. The other thing is these door openings, they're not particularly the largest. So getting in and out might be difficult for maybe people who have some difficulty with mobility. Now, apart from that, level materials in here are good, like the kind of rubberized material here and the fabrics. And overall, it's fairly comfortable. Now, there is, you know, a couple of cup holders and an armrest, quite a wide one, actually. Again, you know, no arguments over, you know, hogging the armrest. And of course, this is a pass-through if you want to carry things like skis, because Scandinavia. There's also ISOFIX points in the back of here for child seats as well. Now, that is all well and good. There's some reading lights and there's some grab handles and a couple of hooks here for clothing. Now, something you might have noticed is there is what seems to be a transmission tunnel here. Now, I'm not sure why it has it.
Stop, I'll answer my own question. The Polestar 2 is built on the CMA platform, co-developed by Geely and Volvo. The CMA platform was designed for PHEVs, ICE and EVs, hence the need for a transmission tunnel. The next Polestar, aptly named the 3, will be on the new EV-only platform, so there won't be a transmission hump. So the Polestar 2 is Polestar's second car that, like the first, was a concept car first and was actually brought to market. It's Nordic, so it's sensible with functional styling, a premium feel, and just what you need and no more. No drive modes, no karaoke mode, no light shows, no fuss. Its exterior styling is definitely divisive, Marmite-like. You either love it or you'll hate it, but it did grow on me over the week. It's new school meets old school. Instant kick you in your pants torque and panic-inducing acceleration are gifts from the new school EV powertrain. But old school feel and handling is what makes this truly a blast to drive. A lot of EVs have enough poke to scare your mum in a straight line, and your dad would probably even let out a small masculine squeal. But show this thing a corner and you realise what this car is all about. It's not just blast away from the lights fast, it's tear around a corner, holding on whilst you pray you can keep up with the thing. It stops pretty well too, and I'm sure the sports package only intensifies all of this. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely things wrong with it. The 360-degree camera looks unfinished, the back is tight, my bum got uncomfortably sweaty, and it's not the most efficient EV. But take it for a test drive and you'll soon start to forgive it for a lot of its shortcomings. Talking of test drives, if you want to know what it's like, be sure to watch our test drive of the Polestar 2.